Your baby's brain doesn't stop working when they fall asleep. It's actually doing some of its most important work right then, processing, consolidating, building. And one of the most significant things that shapes what happens in that brain during sleep has nothing to do with the mattress, the white noise machine, or the sleep schedule. It's whether you're nearby. Stay with me, because what the research shows about proximity and the infant brain during sleep is something most parents have never been told. And once you understand it, you'll never see your baby's nighttime needs the same way again. Here's something that surprises most people. A newborn baby's brain at birth is only about 25% developed. The rest of that development happens outside the womb, shaped by environment, by experience, and most of all, by the people in it. Sleep is one of the primary windows during which that development occurs. During sleep, the infant brain consolidates the neural connections formed during the day, prunes pathways that aren't being used, and lays down the architecture that will support learning, memory, and emotional regulation for the rest of the child's life. What that brain does during sleep is shaped enormously by what's happening around it. The first thing that changes when a parent sleeps nearby is cortisol. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone, the one that triggers fight or flight, raises heart rate, and signals the nervous system that something threatening may be nearby. In infants, cortisol regulation is immature. The system that produces it works fine. The system that dials it back down is still catching up. A baby left alone to sleep has no biological mechanism available to regulate their own cortisol response. A parent's body provides that mechanism. When a baby sleeps in proximity to a parent, whether in a bedside bassinet in the same room or through safe co-sleeping, the parent's presence acts as a biological regulator. The baby picks up the parent through multiple sensory channels at once: smell, sound, warmth, the subtle vibration of breathing. Each of these inputs sends a signal to the infant nervous system that reads safe. And when the nervous system is reading safe, cortisol stays low. Low cortisol during sleep isn't just more comfortable for the baby, it's structurally significant. Chronic elevated cortisol in the developing brain damages the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory and learning. It disrupts the formation of neural connections in the prefrontal cortex. It shapes the brain's stress response architecture in ways that can stick around for years. A baby who sleeps with sustained low cortisol isn't just sleeping better. They're building a brain under completely different conditions than a baby whose cortisol stays elevated through the night. The second thing that changes is arousal regulation. Babies cycle through sleep stages much more frequently than adults, every 45 to 50 minutes rather than every 90. Each time a baby moves from deep sleep to light sleep, they reach a brief state right at the edge of waking. At that moment, the nervous system checks: is everything the same as when I fell asleep? Is my caregiver nearby? Is the environment still safe? James McKenna at the University of Notre Dame has spent more than 3 decades on this specifically. His research shows that when a mother and baby sleep near each other, their sleep cycles begin to coordinate, not completely, but in a way that matters. The mother's breathing patterns, her subtle movements, the sounds she makes at the edge of her own sleep cycles, these act as sensory anchors for the baby. When the baby surfaces at a cycle boundary and the environment is still reading safe, the baby moves back through the light sleep boundary into deep sleep without fully waking. This is why babies who sleep near their parents often wake less. Not because they're sleeping more deeply through the cycle boundaries, but because they're moving through those boundaries more smoothly. The arousal is there. The check happens. And then, because all the sensory signals confirm safety, the baby settles back without distress. When the parent is absent, that same check happens and finds something different. The anchor signals aren't there. The cortisol that began rising with the arousal has no regulating input. The baby surfaces fully, cries, and the cycle that could have continued quietly becomes a full waking. The third thing that happens near a parent is something McKenna's research calls mutual arousal. When mother and infant sleep in close proximity, they don't just coordinate sleep cycles, they also pull on each other's arousal at critical moments. McKenna's work on what he terms breast sleeping found that breastfeeding mothers and their infants show a striking synchrony. The mother's lighter, more frequent arousals during proximity sleep seem to serve a protective function, keeping her more tuned in to the baby's state. The baby's arousals, in turn, affect the mother's sleep depth. This mutual regulation has a specific implication for safety. A baby who arouses easily, whose arousal response is active and working, is a baby whose nervous system is doing exactly what it should. The concern around sudden infant death has always centered on arousal failure, the inability of an infant to rouse themselves from a state that's gone too deep. McKenna's research suggests that proximity sleep, done safely, promotes more frequent and more practiced arousal. Which is not a problem, it's a protection. The fourth thing is temperature. Infant thermoregulation, the ability to hold a stable body temperature, is incomplete at birth and builds gradually through the first months. A baby sleeping alone manages temperature with whatever blankets and clothing they're dressed in. A baby sleeping near a parent has access to a dynamic, responsive heat source that adjusts on its own. The parent's body radiates warmth, and that warmth helps stabilize the baby's temperature without overheating, provided the room is cool enough and the bedding is handled correctly. Temperature stability during sleep isn't separate from brain development. The processes that support temperature regulation and the processes that support neural consolidation during sleep are connected. A thermally stable sleep environment supports deeper, more productive sleep cycles, which means more neural consolidation happening in that small, fast-developing brain. The fifth thing worth sitting with is what the absence of proximity actually costs. This isn't about judgment. Parents sleep separately from their babies for many reasons, all of them valid. But being honest about the biology means acknowledging what is and isn't present in each arrangement. A baby sleeping alone is managing cortisol, arousal, and temperature without the biological support those systems were built to receive. For most healthy babies in safe environments, this is manageable. The nervous system is adaptive. But it comes with a cost that shows up in the data. More frequent and more distressed night wakings, higher cortisol baselines, and the kind of fragmented sleep that limits the neural consolidation that deep sleep cycles are supposed to produce. None of this means separated sleep causes lasting harm. The research doesn't say that. What it says is that proximity sleep, done safely, supports processes that separated sleep doesn't. The baby's brain is doing its building work either way. The conditions under which it builds are just different. What does safe proximity sleep actually look like? A firm, flat sleep surface. No soft bedding near the baby. A cool room. No alcohol or sedating medication in the parent. A bedside bassinet right next to your bed gives your baby most of the sensory signals of your proximity, your smell, the sound of your breathing, your warmth, without sharing a sleep surface. For families who choose to share a surface, the safety guidelines are specific and they matter enormously. Your baby's brain is built to sleep near you, not because you've conditioned them that way, because every sensory system they were born with is calibrated to pick up your presence and read it as the primary signal of safety. When you are nearby, that signal lands. Cortisol stays low. The nervous system settles. The sleep cycles run more smoothly. And that small, rapidly developing brain does its building work in the conditions it was designed for. That's not dependency, that's biology.